You ever hear a sound that just yanks you straight out of your own head? That was me. That day in the locker room at Jefferson High, that metallic bang, echoing so loud it felt like the walls were about to cave in, followed by my own yelp. I didn't even recognize it as my voice at first. Not till I felt the sting over my eye, saw the blood trickling down, mixing with the tears I was trying so hard not to let loose. And you know what? It wasn't some fluke accident, not a slip or a joke gone too far. No, right there in the echo of that locker room, it was three guys, seniors, standing over me like they just scored a touchdown, except the game was my dignity. Mason, Tyler, Ethan. Yeah, you've probably heard those names, football heroes, right? All brawn and grins like they own the place. That was the day my life split wide open, and I stopped pretending I could just disappear and nobody would notice. I'd always been good at being invisible, head down, hair falling in my face, speaking only when I had to, but it never mattered, not when Mason Reynolds had decided you were his next target. He had this way of looking at you, smirk always half-loaded, like daring you to flinch. That afternoon, with Ethan egging him on, and Tyler looking for my phone just to mess with me, I swear it felt like the whole world had shrunk to that cold tile floor and the sharp edge of fear rattling around my chest. Mason's voice was right in my ear. Say one word, and you'll regret it. His breath was hot, but his words were ice. They bolted out the back, just as quick, leaving me alone and shaking until Sarah rushed in. Sarah, she's the kind of person who doesn't hesitate. She took one look, grabbed a towel, pressed it to my head with that careful, big sister touch. "We're telling someone," she said, not even asking if I agreed. Next thing I knew, I was in the main office, bloodied, adrenaline buzzing off, surrounded by shocked faces and the endless fluorescent hum. Mrs. Thompson, our receptionist, nearly dropped her phone. The nurse came running, antiseptic burning, and when Principal Coleman finally showed up tall, tired, always looking like he carried the weight of the whole district on his shoulders, I could barely whisper the names. Mason, Ethan, Tyler. That felt like betrayal, you know? Not just of the school's golden boys, but of every unwritten rule about keeping quiet, not causing trouble, especially if you're just nobody. But silence wasn't safety anymore. So I spoke. Word travels fast in small towns. By the time my mom showed up, apron still on, eyes wide with worry and a lot of anger, there was already a buzz. "We'll get a lawyer," she promised, her hands shaking as she tried to clean up my face. Sitting in that car, driving home, all I saw in the window was someone weak, someone marked. And let me tell you, in America, for all the talk about freedom, sometimes it feels like the biggest bullies always get to make the rules. And Mason? He didn't get scared, he got mad. He blamed me for ruining his year, maybe even his future. I heard about the way he threw that football at the gym wall, the curses he spit, the way Ethan and Tyler started looking less like buddies and more like followers waiting for the next bad idea. But the principal did something no one expected. He suspended Mason from the team, at least temporarily. 2 weeks for Ethan and Tyler. You could feel the shockwave in the hall. Some kids called me a liar. Others messaged support. Mason posted some garbage online, called me a drama queen. But I didn't respond. You know why? Because none of that noise changed what happened. And I wasn't about to let it drown me. But Mason wasn't done. He started blocking my way between classes, dropping notes in my locker, graffiti, just ugly, hateful stuff. And the school, well, they said their hands were tied. Not enough evidence. Nothing they could prove. It was like screaming in a soundproof room. But then something shifted. My mom, stubborn as she is, found this local nonprofit. They help bullying victims, offer advice, show you're not alone. And then, out of nowhere, Jake showed up. Now Jake, he wasn't a friend before, just this junior who'd busted his leg on the track team. But pain recognizes pain. You know what I mean? Turns out, Mason had tripped him at practice, called it a joke. We started collecting stories, freshmen who got locked in closets, girls who'd been mocked to tears, even a teacher whose car got trashed. It was bigger than me. We brought this stuff to the school board, me, Jake, Sarah, a couple of others. Let me tell you, the night before that meeting, I barely slept. My hands were ice, my stomach twisted. But up there, I told my story. Jake played some recordings. Mason tried to laugh it off, but even his parents looked rattled. The board listened. This time, they really listened. Mason got suspended for a month, lost his captain's spot. And yeah, they made him do anger management. The police opened an inquiry. Ethan and Tyler, lighter punishment, but still the tide had turned. Suddenly, the whole town had an opinion. Some thought I'd ruined a good kid's future. Others said I'd saved the school from something worse. I got thank you notes, weird looks, even hugs from people I'd never talked to. Mason's college dreams? They started to fade. The coaches stopped calling. He came back quieter, wouldn't even look at me. Ethan and Tyler gave wide berths. But the best thing? The school got real about changed security cameras, a hotline, teachers actually listening. I even stood up in front of the whole school at an assembly, voice shaking but steady, and I said, "We don't have to be afraid anymore. Bullies only win when we let them." You'd think that's where the credits roll, right? Happy ending? Not exactly. I still jumped when I heard loud noises, avoided empty hallways, but little by little, I found my footing. People started telling me their stories, things I'd never guessed. We started to talk about it out loud. Posters went up. The air just felt different. Even Mason, one day, I caught his eye, and there was something like shame there, or maybe just the ghost of it. Sometimes I go back to that locker room alone, just to prove to myself I could. The scar above my eyebrow, the one I thought would mark me as a victim forever, started to feel like a badge. Jake and Sarah became my lifeline. We'd sit in the diner after meetings, laugh over nothing, plan the next project. At a community center, I stood up next to other survivors, told my story, and this little grandma grabbed my hand and said, "Thank you, honey. Now I know how to help my grandkids." That mattered. Months went by. Mason faded into the background. I started mentoring younger kids, working with a nonprofit, trying to be the person I needed when I was younger. One day, some freshmen tagged me in a post, thanking the brave girl who made it safe to speak up. I saved that, not to brag, but to remind myself all that pain had purpose. Sure, not everyone believed. Some students still rolled their eyes. But the culture started shifting, and I knew I had a piece in that. One night, Sarah grabbed my arm at the diner, looked me in the eye, and said, "You did it, Emily. You made them listen." And I just smiled, touching that little scar, thinking I didn't do it for revenge. I did it so nobody else would have to go through what I did. That's what gets me up every morning. So let me ask you, what would you do? Would you speak up, even when everyone tells you to shut up? Have you ever felt like the underdog in your own life? Share your thoughts, your stories, your outrage, whatever it is. Should schools do more to protect kids like me? Or does it always come down to the loudest voice in the room? I want to hear what you think. Because maybe, just maybe, your voice is the one that tips the scales next time.